Fire for your mind. Kosher clinician.
Are black men on average dangerous and violent? Should the recent news stories cause fear or logical reasoning? Is this behavior really consistent with men in general or propaganda?
Welcome to Timeless International Media. We bring you stories that endure, connecting Jamaicans with news that truly matters.
Pregnant rapper from Detroit is murdered in Atlanta. She was shot 4 times in the face this week. And her family tells us they have a good idea why she was targeted and killed. Know her as Qualisha Barnes. Followers of Detroit and Atlanta hip-hop know her as Sadiddy.
Probably because I know I'm worth a milli.
Qualisha and her family are all from Southwest Detroit. She's been in Atlanta for a decade. The 36-year-old was 14 weeks pregnant, shot 4 times in the face in the middle of the night while in a car in Atlanta this week.
I heard gunshots, like maybe 4 or 5 gunshots, and then a car, Honda, just flew up the street. Like 20, 30 minutes later, the cops everywhere.
Atlanta police say it looks like someone shot through the windshield and drove off. They're using security video to piece it all together. Qualisha's family says she was targeted because she was pregnant.
Broken future. All the plans you made in your heart grew just to die. And now your damaged goods, damaged should have never been. Thought you were bulletproof, look at you, what happened? Did she hurt you? Are you okay, baby? Everyone gets hurt, that's how we learn to make love work. It's part of life, but if you need a lot.
Authorities are saying that 61-year-old Eddie McCollum of North Carolina was charged with first-degree murder in connection with the death of his wife, 58-year-old Pastor Tammy McCollum, who was found shot inside their home on Cardington Court in North Charlotte shortly before 2 o'clock in the morning on Monday, April 6, 2026. Police say that the incident occurred during an argument and was considered a case of domestic violence. After firing at his wife of over 30 years, Eddie McCollum then called 911 himself, confessed to what he had done, and he was arrested at the scene. He did make his first court appearance the next day on Tuesday, April 7, 2026, and a judge did rule that he be held without bond in Mecklenburg County. The couple's daughter, Davalyn McCollum, who now lives in Utah, said that her family is in shock and they are confused about all of this. She said her parents had been together for decades and that her father loved her mother dearly. She went on to say that they weren't the type to argue constantly over small things, so they don't know how this could have happened.
Tonight, a rising star in Florida politics is dead, and her husband charged with her murder. Stephen Bowen was arrested Wednesday after police say they found the body of his wife, Nancy, at their home. Nancy Bowen was the vice mayor of Coral Springs, Florida. After she missed city meetings, officers went to her home for a wellness check, according to the affidavit, which says her body was found wrapped in blankets along with 3 spent shotgun shells. That same day, Stephen Bowen knocked on an unidentified person's door, according to the affidavit, and asked that person to hold on to a shotgun for him. He then admitted that he shot his wife 3 times with a shotgun the previous night and then slept downstairs. Nearby, a pillow with burn marks fashioned as a makeshift silencer. Asked why, Stephen Bowen said that he couldn't take it anymore. Today, Bowen appearing before a judge who ordered him to be held without bond.
The court does find probable cause for the charges.
Tonight, Nancy Mateer Bowen is being remembered as a trailblazer. The 38-year-old was the first black and Haitian American woman elected to the Coral Springs Commission. Wenda Tima was a close friend.
She was one of the good ones because she cared. She cared, and she didn't just care about the community that she came from. She cared about everyone. She cared about making a difference.
Breaking news, a man killed 8 children, 7 of whom were his own, in a mass shooting in Shreveport, Louisiana. The suspect, identified as 31-year-old Army veteran Shamar Elkins, is believed to have killed 7 of his own children, along with another child connected to the family. 2 adult women were also shot and remain in critical condition. The mayor of that city describing the crime scene as horrific. 8 children discovered in a home, all of them shot and killed. Police say the youngest victim was just 18 months old. The oldest was 12. Police confirm the attack was not random, but stemmed from a domestic dispute that escalated into extreme violence. Investigators say a total of 10 people were shot, including 8 children between the ages of 1 and 14, all of whom tragically died. Authorities say the situation unfolded across multiple locations, turning it into a fast-moving and complex crime scene. After the shootings, Elkins allegedly carjacked a vehicle and attempted to flee, leading police on a pursuit. The incident came to an end when law enforcement shot and killed the suspect during that chase. Officials are still working to determine the exact motive, but early findings point to ongoing family conflict and relationship issues leading up to the attack. This case is now being described as one of the deadliest and most heartbreaking incidents in the history of Shreveport, and it has left the entire community in shock.
Hit that like button. Go ahead, do it now before I reach out into that screen and twist your hand like Aunt Esther. Hit the like button. Thank you.
Destroy.
Fire for your mind. Kosher clinician.
If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. Heaven and hell, that's what they told you. Real men put the strap down and we can toss them. Young heads picking back up and young dolphins. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician, masculinity issues. Absent fathers who miss you. Mama drama don't kiss you. All a part of the ritual. This is how they get you. Separate the men, women clipping babies pretend to. Damn. Lovers, haters acting like vultures. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. Listen. Listen.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in to the 40 that are watching, guys. Do me a favor, share this stream as we attempt to dissect this very timely and necessary show concerning the deaths of 5 women last week. And I'm going to be very careful in dissecting this show because I understand that some people will act rationally, some will act irrationally, and I'm going to try to do my best to decipher what happened and add a layer of nuance to why what happened, and also whether or not this whole conversation is tied to propaganda or actual facts concerning what's perceived to be behaviors of Black men. So let me say this. Let me give my condolences to all the women that lost their lives from Qualisha Barnes, I believe, to Dr. Sienna, and all the women that lost their lives. But however, and I stand by this, I do not believe that this is an indictment of all Black men in general. I think Black men in general are good men. But are there some men that have snapped or will snap based on the things they are going through? Yes. And we don't know all the circumstances or situations. So I'm going to be very careful, and I'm going to be very intentional in how I dissect this conversation, because if you say something that's not perceived to be fair and just, some gonna get in their feelings and say, how dare you say this, and whatever. But we're gonna be very comprehensive. We're gonna be very intentional in this matter, because once again, people lost their lives. And once again, my heart goes out to those women. But nonetheless, I've always said, guys, in the past, that a broken man is a hopeless man. And a hopeless man is a very dangerous man. A hopeless man, he's dangerous because many times men suffer in silence. They don't really have anywhere or don't have the proper sometimes support system to voice their displeasure, their pain, or their brokenness. And so instead of getting the proper help, some turn inward. And when it turns inward, many times it can lead to violence. Now, listen, we all know that domestic issues are more or less bi-directional. According to some studies, bi-directionality means that the female aggressor starts it, the male ends it. And sometimes men walk away, sometimes men suffer in silence, sometimes men commit homicide, unfortunately. And it's not a gender-based solely. Some will say that men do it more. I don't know the research. I'm going to look into that. But we do know that 5 women lost their lives. But is this endemic of Black men in general or the male race? And I would say no. I don't believe so. I don't believe so. And I'm going to give the evidence why I don't believe so, and why we got to be careful when we tend to project these negative stereotypes based in fear and not based in reality. I would say on average, most men, Black or white, but Black men are good men. They're solid. Are there dusty Black men? Yes. Are there dangerous Black men that will hurt women? Yes. Are there Black men that are quote unquote nice guys and they wear the mask of being kind, but really are wolves in sheep clothing? Yes. But I will also argue that by nature, some women struggle with a concept called paranoid persecution. They assume that men are dangerous. They just assume by default that all men are dangerous. And there have been too many stories in the media where many men have put their lives on the line to save women and children. But listen, it's good and bad in men and women, just like we presumed or assumed it in the past, that all women were sugar and spice and everything nice, but that's not the case when you look at the amount of children that have been violated sexually at the hands of women, especially in the school system, because I was a former educator. And so it's really genderless. It's not necessarily a man or woman. It's just called the human condition. And the human condition sometimes supersedes rational thinking. Sometimes it supersedes what's right. And many times men in general are projected in a very negative lens where there's no evidence to the contrary. Now, we can't take this small sample size and falsely equivocate all men as being predatory, violent, and dangerous. Are there violent, dangerous men? Yes, it is. There are dangerous men. Yes. And as I said before, my heart goes out to these young women that lost their lives. So, guys, we're going to get into it. But I warn you, this is going to be a very complex topic. It might trigger some people, but that is not the intention. The intention is to have a cogent conversation that's predicated in reality and devoid of emotions. And I understand why this topic can be emotional to some. The essence of the show is to have a cogent civil conversation and to dissect this thing through the lens of logic and reason outside of propaganda. Greetings. This is another topic of the kosher clinician that might be sensitive to some viewers. If you are sensitive to the topic at hand or the title provided in the show, please proceed with caution. You have been warned. Viewer discretion is advised. So, guys, I want to take a poll. I'm going to take a poll and I'm going to ask you guys a question. And the poll is this: are most black men dangerous and violent? Are most black men dangerous and violent? And as I said before, I don't think that's the case. But tell me what you guys think, and we're going to get deeper into the conversation. Shout out to everybody that's decided to tap in. Shout out to Hashim Shabazz. Shout out to everyone that's tapping in. Shout out to Hashim Shabazz. Salute the coach. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it for the $5 super chat. You said Broward, Stephanie Curry. Also, Shana Yawahada stopping in from Delaware. And so the topic of discussion is therapists react what people get wrong about black men in crisis. And as a licensed therapist, there are a lot of men in crisis because many times society has not given black men in general the safe place to express their distress, their pains, and their fears. And this is not to minimize what happened recently, the 5 women that lost their lives. But I don't believe 100% that black men by default are predatory and dangerous. If you guys believe so, I want you to hit 1. Do you think most black men are dangerous? And if so, if you believe that most black men are dangerous, tell me why. So I'm going to leave a link. Do you guys think on average that black men are dangerous and violent? And I want you guys to hit 1. Tell me if y'all think the black men are dangerous and violent and give me your reason. All right, so let's get into it, guys. Let's get into it. Let's get into this topic of conversation around the women that lost their lives. But I want to show you guys a short clip. And I think this conversation from this woman proves my point. Hold tight. I think what it does.
Black men and men in general really this dangerous, or are the fears irrational and distorted? Is this media propaganda?
Firstly, good morning or good afternoon, depending on whatever time you see this. We got some stuff to unpack. Firstly, I want to send prayers and condolences to Dr. Cerina Fairfax's family, her friends, as well as her babies, because prayers to Dr. Cerina Fairfax, just my Lord. And I want to send prayers and condolences to the amount of countless other women who were seeing headlines who were taken from their beautiful lives by the hands of men.
You know, I have to say, of all races of people, I find that black men have the worst rap when it comes to domestic abuse, when it comes to, you know, having babies and taking off on the moms of the babies, or when it comes to not working and just allowing women to take care of them. You know, these are some of the examples. Yet, in my opinion, first of all, not all black men are like that.
And I agree with this lady. Thank God for rational women like her. I don't believe that all black men are dangerous or valid. I think black men on average are actually good people. I think black men on average are good fathers. I think black men in general are solid people. But are there dusty black men that have violent tendencies, predatorial, and are dangerous? Yes. But once again, that's not a gender issue. That's a human issue, because you can find those same negative characteristics and behaviors in women as well. And things get lost in translation when we equivocate or falsely equivocate all black men like this.
Yeah, put chain on them balls on my mom. That be broken balls. Kill some of my mom. Bro, they back me look like gang. That's on my monkey. Gang. That's on my monkey. Gang. That's on my.
There are men like, you know, these Pookies and Ray Rays and Man-Mans and Day-Days. They are violent, and they will take women out and they will hurt them and abuse them. Yes. And one could argue that the senator that took his wife's life was a professional man. But some of these men are mentally ill. Some of these men have unresolved trauma. The man from Shreveport that deleted his babies. You know, there have been stories in the past when women are going through trauma, they might delete their children as well. But many times we don't give the men the same amount of grace as we give the women. There have been women that have taken the lives of their kids due to postpartum. Was this man that took the lives of his 7 kids just wicked? Or was he dealing with some unresolved anger issue from the past that stemmed into post-traumatic stress? I don't know. But I don't think this thing is a gender-based issue per se. I think it is just the human nature and the human condition. And we got to be very careful when we falsely equivocate and truncate black men, especially in the lens of pathological and also in the lens of being dangerous and violent. I think we got to be very careful with that, because I don't think that's necessarily the case. Because we're going to talk about cases where white women or black women were deleted at the hands of their white boyfriends, but at the same time, the same tenor, the same veracity to denounce that particular group of men many times goes on deaf ears. Things are always amplified when it comes down to black men, and they continue to perpetuate negative stereotypes that's been carrying systematically on black men since the inception of slavery, pre-antebellum and post-antebellum slavery.
Are black men and men in general really this dangerous, or are the fears irrational and distorted?
So I asked the question, what percentage of do you guys think the black men are violent and dangerous? I would love to hear you guys' feedback. Do you think black men on average are dangerous and violent? I would love you guys' feedback.
Is this media propaganda?
Firstly, good morning to good afternoon, depending on whatever time you see this. We got some stuff to unpack. Firstly, I want to send prayers and condolences to Dr. Cerina Fairfax's family, her friends, as well as her babies, because prayers to Dr. Cerina Fairfax, just my Lord. And I want to send prayers and condolences to the amount of countless other women who were seeing headlines who were taken from their beautiful lives by the hands of men.
You know, I have to say, of all races of people, I find that black men have the worst rap when it comes to domestic abuse, when it comes to, you know, having babies and taking off on the moms of the babies, or when it comes to not working and just allowing women to take care of them. You know, these are some of the examples. Yet, in my opinion, first of all, not all black men are like this. And secondly, black men are not the only race of men who...
And I love this sister for being bold and courageous, because once again, the ongoing conversation is the presumption that black men by default are dangerous and violent and hurt women and hurt children and don't take care of their responsibility. And we know that's not true. There are dusty black men that do that, yes. But on average, most black men are not like that. And I stand on that. That most black men are not dangerous or violent and want to hurt kids. Are there violent black men that will hurt women? Yes. But when we get caught up in these conversations where when they become convoluted and it's based on irrational fear and the construct of paranoid persecution, it causes a lot of danger. And what happens a lot of times is that women get subsided into seeing men as dangerous and still looking at all the good that men have done and continue to do. I'm going to show you guys cases and examples of men that do that. Now listen, there's a such thing called infanticide. If we look at the data and statistics of babies that have been deleted by either ethnic group, is it safe to say that women are dangerous if many have been complicit in infanticide? If we look at femicide, there are men that have taken out women, sadly. It happens in some Latin cultures. But I'm not saying that all in part that black men in general are complicit in deleting women. I don't believe that. Does it happen? Yes. But does it happen at a high rate that most people project and assume? No. And a lot of time it's media propaganda to cause confusion and division among the genders. So I don't believe that. And then you got what's called menticide. Menticide is the attack psychologically on human beings. Many times black boys and men have been victims of menticide, where they've been psychologically damaged and destroyed. And some of these men in these cases that were violent, some of them were just chaotic and psychotic. But let's argue that some of these cases was due to some levels, high levels of emasculation. Doesn't justify what happened. I'm not saying that's the case, but sometimes that is the case. And we're going to explore that in a minute. So let's finish listening to what this young lady is saying. Guys, do me a favor, share the stream, donate to the channel, and hit the like button.
Are like this, right? Every race, you can find men like this. Yet again, black men are the ones that get the worst rap. And so what often happens is black women are saying, well, you know what? I'm going to date outside of my race. I'm going to go date a white man now.
Right. So some say that I'm going to date a white man, but I'm going to show you guys Janae, the woman named Janae that lost her life. Well, some believe she lost her life. They believe that a white man did it. And there are many other countless cases where white men have deleted black women because some black women looked their nose down on black men, minimized them, said they were less than. They ran to the arms of white men only to be deleted or abused psychologically and verbally abused. I'm going to show you guys those cases.
Because black men are this and that and everything bad.
Killed allegedly at the hands of her boyfriend. 33-year-old Erin Shea is now charged with first-degree murder. Global News has learned Shea was released from prison 4 months ago on statutory release after serving 2/3 of a 3-year and 1-month sentence. As a condition of that release, Shea was ordered to reside at the halfway house where he was being supervised in the community. Brooks's cousin, Terrell Clark, says she had a teenage daughter and was an advocate for children and youth in foster care after spending time in foster care herself.
This is an example of a black woman who decided to date outside of her race. And sadly, she was deleted by the white man that she was dating.
Right.
Her name is Alicia Brooks. She was 34 years old, has a teenage daughter. And for whatever reason, on that night, this man used a gun and took her life.
Of course, there are going to be some that are going to denigrate this black sister and call her a pick-me. She's a man and she's male identified. Because what she's saying it does not suit the narrative. What she's saying is tied to fairness and rationality. And some don't want to hear fairness and rationality. They want to hear paranoid persecution. The belief and this false assumption that all men are dangerous and all black men are the boogeyman, no different than their white predecessors years ago that saw black men as dangerous. Black men were strung up on trees based on perceived threats of violence, where historically black men have never been violent towards black women or human beings in general. While most crimes towards other men is black on black, is more tribalistic, but also it could be solely tied many times into self-hate many times. That's why I tell people over and over again, you shouldn't use that N word. The N word greatly distorts the tenor of black excellence. That's why I don't believe that people should use that word. And so when this woman says what she says, and it's more or less trying to give credit or credence to solid black men, then of course there gonna be something that's gonna call her a coon. She's male identified because let me tell you guys what I've learned. There's power in victimization, and there's power in the media. There's power in propagandized politics. And what it does, it feeds into the pathological thinking of some women that have been traumatized by abusive men. And those abusive men become a false equivocation of all men in general, regardless of whatever. All men are bad based on their relationships or their anecdotal experience with those men, and that's tied once again to what's called paranoid persecution, or what I call schema afflictions. A schema is a core belief, and it's often tied to pain or fear. An affliction, I've been afflicted based on my core belief. Therefore, I assume that all men are this bad or all men are like that. And it's unfortunate. Once again, guys, do me a favor, hit the like button, share the stream, and donate to the channel.
I'm also calling on the justice system here in Ontario because this man, Aaron Shea, in July 2020, threw a brick at his ex-girlfriend.
All right, so let's look at these cases, but I want to go, guys, and I want to show you guys something about the paranoid persecution that I'm talking about. And many times I don't think it's just, I think it's unjust. And I want you guys to tell me about what y'all think about what this woman has said, because this ties into the paranoid persecution. Once again, my heart goes out to Dr. Cerina, Dr. Cerina, I think that's her name, Fairfax, I believe. But once again, I don't think this is endemic of black men in general. I don't think black men in mass are dangerous. This was a domestic issue that went awry, but this is not endemic of all black men. I think most black men are solid people, and I'm going to give you guys evidence based on what I pulled up. Hold tight.
Into this one. Her name was Dr. Cerina Fairfax. She was 49 years old, a dentist, a mother of 2 teenagers, a woman who loved to travel, ran trails with her dogs, and by every account, built the life her family lived in. And on Wednesday night, while her children were at home, her husband shot her multiple times in the basement of their Virginia home before taking his own life upstairs. Her teenage son was the one who called 911. Her husband was former Virginia Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax. His name carries political weight, but today, he is not the story. She is. Because Cerina Fairfax did everything survivors are told to do. She filed for divorce. She installed cameras in the home after her husband filed a false assault claim against her. Cameras that police say proved the alleged assault never happened. She sought court protection. A judge ordered him out of the house by the end of April. She did everything right, and she still didn't make it out alive. Since the news broke, several black men who were friends and colleagues of Justin's posted tributes, calling him a good man, a broken man, a victim, framing his spiral as something done to him rather than a violence inflicted by him. In response, black women are furious.
So 2 things can be true, but yeah, this group thing, guys, is dangerous, because if you're gonna, use groupthink when it comes down to that incident, then where's the groupthink when black men do heroic deeds, and are people celebrating and parading black men as heroes that I'm going to prove to you guys in a minute, that are heroes, that have saved children, that have saved women, and some have lost their lives in the advent of protecting women and children. Now look at the comments, because this once again proves the merits of paranoid persecution. Said my soul is broken for her and her children. That's what one woman said. Unfortunately, that's the most dangerous time for a woman once she decides to leave the relationship. We have to move in silence, move to another city, just off the grid, rest in peace. And listen, once again, my heart goes out to Dr. Sienna. This man that took her life was a coward, in my opinion. But we don't know everything that was happening behind the scene. We don't know all the ins and outs. And let me tell you, men, something. That's why I tell you, men, you should never idolize a woman. You know, like some women say they want a man to worship the ground she walks on. Never do that. Because see, you should love your woman, but you should love your woman within reason. But you should never love a woman to the point where you feel like you can't live without her, and you got to do something as stupid as taking another woman's life. This man should have let that woman go on with her life and move on and let her do what she needed to do. But many times men have been taught and conditioned by default to a fault. Some say fall in love. Never fall in love. Should you love your woman? Yes. But should you love your woman to the point that you are idolizing her and putting that woman above God and putting that woman above your purpose as a man? No, you should never love a woman like that. That's dangerous for a man. When men fall in love, and I would say that wasn't love, that was obsession, it makes a man highly vulnerable. And when a man is vulnerable, a man being imprinted or impregnated by the love of a woman is no different than a woman being impregnated by the seed of a man. The woman is impregnated through physical DNA. The man is impregnated through mental DNA. And it can lead to menticide when a man doesn't have the proper skills to deal with it. All this mess about worshiping the ground she walk on is nonsense. Love your woman, but you never love a woman outside of your core values and your principles as a man. And once again, we don't know all the ins and outs and the nuances, even though it does not justify this man taking this woman's life. As I said before in the past, a broken man is a hopeless man, and a hopeless man is a dangerous man. And what happens many times, some women are still internalizing the pain they went through as it relates to domestic violence. And they tend to pathologize all men. That's why some women like the word partner, or they want what's called safe masculinity, because they assume that anytime men try to set structure and order, that by nature and default, they're dangerous, they're violent, and they're controlling. And I've said before in the past, and I'll say it again, men should have healthy control in their family. I'm not talking about abusive control. What this man was doing to Dr. Cerina Fairfax is an example of abusive control. But healthy control means setting boundaries, setting expectations, and trying to protect your woman. You should live your life to protect your woman and die for her if you have to. But I don't believe that men should fall in love, because falling in love is dangerous. Do I believe that men should love their women within reason? Yes, love her within reason, to the point that you will die for her and protect her and take care of her, your kids and protect her. But you don't love a woman more than you love God. Because that woman, especially in our culture now, women divorce men for silly stuff. No fault divorce. He lost his job, and some men just snap and they can't handle it. Now, once again, I don't know all the ins and outs with Dr. Cerina Fairfax. I'm not trying to qualify that, because we know and understand what happened with Dr. Cerina Fairfax was uncalled for. So let me clarify that. But I do think that there needs to be greater conversations about male mental health, and men having the opportunity to speak and to share their story, and to say things without fear of rejection. Anytime men begin to tell their story, many times it's minimized. And I see it many times in couples counseling. I see it many times in therapy. Men are expected to truncate their experience for the sake of congruence and for the sake of political correctness. And many times that causes men to suffer in silence. And sometimes that suffering in silence can lead to resentment. And from resentment, sometimes it can lead to rage. And sadly, sometimes it can lead to homicide. I said sadly, because once again, a broken man is a hopeless man, and a hopeless man is extremely dangerous. A hopeless man is a dangerous man. Shout out to my man, my brother, my friend, always showing love. My man, Brother Ray Johnson, always from the West Coast. Shout out to Brother Ray Johnson for a $10 super chat. Thank you, Brother Ray. I appreciate the brother for showing love. Shout out to Brother Ray for the $10 super chat. Hold tight.
And they have every right to be, because that narrative erases Cerina. It repositions a murderer as the protagonist of his own victim story. And the data backs up exactly why that framing is so dangerous. An estimated 51% of Black female adult homicides are related to intimate partner violence. Black women are murdered by men at a rate of 2.5 times higher than white women. And 96% of murder-suicide victims are female. This is not abstract. This happens every single day. Justin Fairfax was not simply a broken man who snapped. 2 women actually accused him of sexual assault going back to 2000. He denied both and refused to resign. So when Black women say don't make him the story, they're not being divisive. They are demanding that a Black woman's life be treated as precious, as worthy of outrage, as deserving of center frame. So today we say her name, Dr. Cerina Fairfax, devoted mother, accomplished dentist, a woman who deserved to live.
All right, so let me read you some of the comments. And once again, guys, we're not trying to minimize what happened with Dr. Cerina Fairfax. We're not trying to minimize that. So let me read you some of the comments real quick, guys, because some get it and some don't get it. And guys, do me a favor, guys, hit the like button and also share the stream. Right, I agree. You said Bruce. Only a small percentage of men are psychopaths. I agree. Railroads, gun banking system, education system. Right. Shout out to my man, the Orange Peel Nurse. Shout out to that dear brother. Shout out to Tommy Salami for the love of Pukas. What about Black girlfriends kill white boyfriends? We'll get to that in a minute. Black men progress have been sabotaged every step of the way and targeted and destroyed. And so we're gonna get into it, guys. We're gonna get into it. But I do want to read through some of the comments because, as I said before, guys, we don't want to make this thing pathological, and we don't want to make this thing disproportionately said and done. Unfortunately, the most dangerous time for a woman, so this is what somebody else said, it's so heartbreaking. My heart hurts for those kids. Say her name, Dr. Cerina Fairfax. And listen, I just leave it alone. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm just as outraged about the victimization of Justin Fairfax. Never is domestic violence okay. We must put respect on her name, Dr. Cerina Fairfax. I would ever like to make it clear that those claims of sexual assault during this campaign and tenure at Lieutenant Governor were thoroughly investigated and they were not substantiated. Right. I believe this is when his life began to unravel, and the reason why Black men are saying he's the victim. That makes a lot of sense, because nobody cares about the struggles and the stories and the pain and the hurt when men are struggling, white or Black. Nobody cares about it. I'm just saying that I believe and understand what Black men are speaking about, the decent aspects of his life. I see his point. And this is what happens with groupthink. You know, a situation that happened, and then we'll start having these conversations that Black men are dangerous and whatnot. But then the protagonist will say, we should be incensed about these women losing their lives, and I totally agree we should. But the protagonist will say, then where's the outrage when it comes down to infanticide? Where's that outrage? Infanticide is one of the growing. It's the most erroneous trends in our community, and it's destroying Black babies at an alarming rate. But that's a conversation that most people don't want to have. And so, as I said before, I don't think that Black men by nature are dangerous and violent. I don't believe that. And there have been some divestors that have, denigrated Black men to the point they go to white men. And this is not to put all white men are not dangerous as well, but they go to white men and they lose their lives, like the lady named Janae. And so it's unfortunate for Dr. Cerina Fairfax. But I think we got to be careful with this groupthink and these false assumptions that Black men in general are dangerous, where I don't think that's the case. I don't think Black men in general are dangerous. I don't believe that. But let's get into it. Hold tight.
Black men on average dangerous and violent. Should the recent news stories cause fear or logical reasoning? Is this behavior really consistent with men in general, or propaganda?
Welcome to Timeless International Media. We bring you stories that endure, connecting Jamaicans with news that truly matters.
Pregnant rapper from Detroit is murdered in Atlanta. She was shot 4 times in the face this week. And her family tells us they have a good idea why she was targeted and killed. You know her as Qualisha Barnes. Followers.
And this is influencer Qualisha Barnes, whose life was ended. Sadly, she lost her life. But was Qualisha Barnes with a solid black dude, or was Qualisha Barnes with a pookie? Somebody that was probably raised in a home where there was not a father. Does Qualisha Barnes' boyfriend symbolize black men in general? And I don't believe that's the case. I don't believe that. But hold tight.
Detroit and Atlanta hip hop know her as Sadiddy.
Because I know I'm worth a milli.
Qualisha and her family are all from Southwest Detroit. She's been in Atlanta for a decade. The 36-year-old was 14 weeks pregnant, shot 4 times in the face in the middle of the night while in a car.
And this kind of black man that took the life of Qualisha Barnes, in my opinion, is not systematic of black men in general. I don't believe that. I refuse to believe that. I like something that Dr. Ron Neal said. When you destroy culture, where the men are not allowed to vet some of these men and these women's lives, when the fathers are minimized in the homes, when the fathers are minimized in the courts, when the fathers are not given the power to say what they need to say, then all of a sudden, when something happens, when calamities happen, somebody say, why are we not protecting black women? But black excellence one time came with expectations. Black excellence at one time came with responsibility. American excellence, white or black, came with accountability and responsibility. And when shame was a virtue, many of the things you're seeing now was not as bad, in my opinion. But now, when you have a generation in society that don't follow the leadership and the admonitions of the fathers or the men in their lives, sadly, this is what happens. And my heart once again goes out to this young lady for losing her life. But the man that took her life, I don't believe is endemic of black men in general. I don't believe that. I believe he's a rogue, probably was raised without a father. He probably was an emotional male, not a man. He's not a man, he's a male. And he took this woman's life.
In Atlanta this week.
I heard gunshots, like maybe 4 or 5 gunshots, and then a car, Honda, just flew up the street. Like 20, 30 minutes later, the cops everywhere.
Atlanta police say it looks like someone shot through the windshield and drove off. They're using security video to piece it all together. Qualisha's family says she was targeted because she was pregnant.
So this was Dr. Cerina Fairfax. She's the woman that lost her life, sadly.
Broken future, all the plans you made in your heart grew just to die. And now your damaged goods, damaged should have never been. Thought you were bulletproof, look at you, what happened? Did she hurt?
And let me tell you, man, something. We live in a world where a lot of men are dealing with repressed anger. They're dealing with repressed fears. Their hopes have been violated. A lot of men, never in a time where a false allegation can derail your career. Men never had to endure that years ago. Black men did at the hands of Jim Crow racism. A black man, if he was accused of anything outside of knowing his place, he could lose his life. If you don't believe me, ask Emmett Till. But when it comes down to the broader conversation about assuming and presuming that a person has done something, not only are white men struggling, but all men are struggling. And the politician, Mr. Fairfax, it's a strong possibility that he was dealing with a lot of issues of unresolved post-traumatic stress. And it does not justify what he did to that woman. It does not justify it. But once again, a broken man is a hopeless man. A hopeless man is dangerous. And when a society tells you to suck it up, when a society tells you to man up, when you don't have anywhere to turn to vent your pain and your hope, your hurt and your brokenness, some men, it leads to violence. It's called maladaptive coping. And sadly, it happens.
You, are you okay, baby? Everyone gets hurt. That's how we learn to make love work. It's part of life, but if you need a lot.
Authorities are saying that 61-year-old Eddie McCollum of North Carolina was charged with first-degree.
Now, this is a pastor, Pastor McCollum, and her husband took her life. Now, let me say something, guys. There are many men that come home broken, destroyed, distressed. And, of course, there are some that don't believe that women should be pastors and be over men. That's biblical. But there are some men that are frustrated, they're in distress, and it doesn't justify this man taking this woman's life. I keep telling men over and over again, you have to speak up and stop being a coward in your home. You got to set parameters, tell your wife what your expectations are, just like your wife, she can tell you what her expectations are. But it should never get to a point where you're afraid to be your authentic self in your house and in your home and to challenge obtuse behavior that goes against your value system. But here's the problem. When you've got a generation of men that are not raised in intact two-parent homes, white or black, but sadly, unfortunately, it tends to happen a lot in black homes. It's beginning to happen a lot in white homes as well. And what men do, when you got women, either emasculating them in the home, not following their leadership or disrespecting them, the fact she said she was a pastor, people get mad at me, but biblically, theology says that women are not supposed to teach men. It doesn't mean that a woman can't preach the gospel or be an evangelist or be a prophetess or teach women, but teaching men is antithetical to the scripture, being a bishop or whatever. It's not scriptural. Regardless of the talent does not supersede order. And what happens a lot of times in these situations, and my heart goes out to this woman. Once again, my heart goes out to this woman. A lot of these men feel emasculated in their homes, and many times it leads to resentment. And many times, because they don't have any way to process it, it turns to violence. I'm not saying this right, but you got a lot of men that wear the mask of being the good guy. And that's not what they really mean. They've been conditioned to be the good guy in relationships. And what happens a lot of times when you're the good guy is just a facade. It's not who he really is. The good guy is just a facade to go along, to get along, because he doesn't want to hurt anybody. But see, what happens when you're constantly being a good guy and you keep compounding that over time, being a good guy leads to internalization. That internalization leads to resentment, and that resentment can lead to internalized anger, and that anger many times can lead to violence. And I won't be surprised if this man did what he did in part, even though he was a fool. He just should have walked away or just left her. It doesn't justify taking that woman's life. But I won't be surprised that if that man felt emasculated over a span of time, because it doesn't make any sense to be married for 30 years and to take your wife's life. That doesn't make any sense to me. And he deserves to go to prison. He deserves to lose his life like he took that woman's life. But men have to start speaking up. They have to learn how to walk away. And sometimes it's not always easy, especially now, the way the economy is. People are struggling. Men are struggling. Women are suffering. Families are suffering. And you got a generation of women, some that have always seen themselves outside of the leadership of their men, or they challenge the leadership of their men. And many times it leads to anger, and sometimes it leads to violence, unfortunately. But I do not believe that what happened in the month of April is endemic to black men in general, or any man. I don't believe that. And I think this is what happens when it leads to propagandized politics, which leads to victim narratives and victimization. As I said, once again, those women did not deserve to lose their lives. But it's a lot of nuance to it. That's why we're trying to have this conversation. And that's why I said that there were warning signs. There were warning signs There were warning signs with Dr. Cerina Fairfax husband. There were warning signs with the man in Shreveport, Louisiana. There were warning signs, but nobody listened. Nobody cared to listen because many times people minimize the traumas of men. Nobody cares about it. And me being a licensed therapist, that's why I take it upon myself to try to understand the struggles, the pains of men, and why so many men suffer in silence. And that's why men need to get mental health help.
Murder in connection with the death of his wife, 58-year-old Pastor Tammy McCollum, who was found shot inside their home on Cardington Court in North Charlotte shortly before 2 o'clock in the morning on Monday, April 6, 2026. Police say that the incident occurred during an argument and was considered a case of domestic violence. After firing at his wife of over 30 years, Eddie McCollum then called 911 himself, confessed to what he had done, and he was arrested at the scene. He did make his first court appearance the next day on Tuesday, April 7, 2026, and a judge did rule that he be held without bond in Mecklenburg County. The couple's daughter, Davalyn McCollum, who now lives in Utah, said that her family is in shock and they are confused about all of this. She said her parents had been together for decades and that her father loved her mother dearly. She went on to say that they weren't the type to argue constantly over small things, so they don't know how this could have happened.
Tonight, O'Reilly.
All right, so this woman was a mayor. She was a mayor. And she was taken out by her husband. But I asked the question, guys, do you guys feel that black men in general are violent and dangerous, or this is more or less an isolated case and an isolated experience, and that black men in general are not dangerous and black men in general are not violent? Because I'm going to prove you guys with the evidence that they are not in general. I don't believe they are.
Rising star in Florida politics is dead, and her husband charged with her murder. Stephen Bowen was arrested Wednesday after police say they found the body of his wife, Nancy, at their home. Nancy Bowen was the vice mayor of Coral Springs.
And she was the vice mayor of Coral Springs. But the fact this man took his wife's life is problematic. But the question would be why? It's not justified. But we know that there are some women that are career-minded women that many times sometimes put their careers over the mission of the family. Now, listen, there are some women that are kind, feminine, and sensitive, and regardless of what they do, that man gonna be jealous and have some issues. There are men like that. But then there are women that emasculate their husbands by flexing and competing with them and undermining them and don't honor them. And sometimes those men snap. There are some women that are good women and they're gonna still be fools. But I don't think the former is greater than the latter. I don't believe so.
Springs, Florida. After she missed city meetings, officers went to her home for a wellness check, according to the affidavit, which says her body was found wrapped in blankets along with 3 spent shotgun shells. That same day, Stephen Bowen knocked on an unidentified person's door, according to the affidavit, and asked that person to hold on to a shotgun for him. He then admitted that he shot his wife 3 times with a shotgun the previous night and then slept downstairs. Nearby, a pillow with burn marks fashioned as a makeshift silencer. Asked why, Stephen Bowen said that he couldn't take it anymore.
Now, the fact that Stephen Bowen said he couldn't take it anymore, guys, how about y'all internalize that? How would you internalize he said he couldn't take it anymore? And see, those are context clues. He cannot take it anymore. Was this woman, even though it wasn't justified, emasculating her husband? I don't know. But he said he couldn't take it anymore. And sometimes when you get with these high-profile, educated women, they emasculate you, man. And we're not saying that this woman losing her life was right or justified. It wasn't. I'm not saying that at all. But it does happen. It does happen. But I asked the question, do many think that black men in general are dangerous and violent? I don't believe so. I need some responses, okay?
Today, Bowen appearing before a judge who ordered him to be held without bond.
The court does find probable cause for the charges.
Tonight, Nancy Mateer Bowen is being remembered as a trailblazer. The 38-year-old was the first black and Haitian American woman elected to the Coral Springs Commission. Wenda Tima was a close friend.
She was one of the good ones because she cared. she cared, and she didn't just care about the community that she came from. She cared about everyone. She cared about making a difference.
Now, guys, this one was carnage. This one was carnage where the guy was a former Army vet, and he took the lives of his 7 children and also another baby. And they said the man had mental health issues, he had anger issues in the past. But it makes you wonder what made a man snap to the point that he would take the life of 7 babies and also another innocent child. And that's why I keep saying, man, male mental health is important. It's highly important. And we got to start hearing men speak out. We got to start hearing men having the opportunity to tell their story. But what happens many times when men begin to speak out, they're ashamed and they internalize that anger and resentment again.
The court does find probable cause for the charges.
Tonight, Nancy Mateer Bowen is being remembered as a trailblazer. The 38-year-old was the first Black and Haitian American woman elected to the Coral Springs Commission. Wenda Tima was a close friend.
She was one of the good ones because she cared. She cared, and she didn't just care about the community that she came from. She cared about everyone. She cared about making a difference.
Yeah. And so I'm going to show you guys some evidence because, like I said, you got to be careful with this propaganda media, this propaganda politics. Yeah, you got to be real careful because we understand that by nature, women are nesters. Women tend to be more communal. Women tend to do things in a group. And sometimes if groupthink is not nuanced, it can lead to pathological thinking. And so I asked the question, do you guys think that Black men on average are dangerous and violent? I don't believe they are, but I need you guys' response.
Breaking news, a man killed 8 children, 7 of whom were his own, in a mass shooting in Shreveport, Louisiana. The suspect, identified as 31-year-old Army veteran Shamar Elkins, is believed to have killed 7 of his own children, along with another child connected to the family. 2 adult women were also shot and remain in critical condition. The mayor of that city describing the crime scene as horrific. 8 children discovered in a home, all of them shot and killed. Police say the youngest victim was just 18 months old. The oldest was 12. Police confirm the attack was not random, but stemmed from a domestic dispute that escalated into extreme violence. Investigators say a total of 10 people were shot, including 8 children between the ages of 1 and 14, all of whom tragically died. Authorities say the situation unfolded across multiple locations, turning it into a fast-moving and complex crime scene. After the shootings, Elkins allegedly carjacked a vehicle and attempted to flee, leading police on a pursuit.
So do you think this man was just a deranged man? Or do you think this man was dealing with some unresolved mental illness? What do you guys think? Do you think he was just deranged? Or do you think he was dealing with some unresolved mental illness? But once again, guys, we talk about femicide. We talk about the presumption that men are taking out women in mass, and I don't believe that's the case. I just don't believe it's the case. We know it happens, but I don't believe that's the case, that men are this violent and dangerous. Because I'm going to show you guys evidence to the contrary of men doing heroic deeds and men dispelling the myth of them being violent and dangerous. We know that there are dangerous men. Yes, there are dangerous men that will hurt women. But there are also dangerous women that hurt men, that hurt children, and vice versa. It's not a gender issue. It's a human condition. But let me pull this thing up, guys. I'm going to finish playing that. Let me pull something up real fast. And I need you guys' insight for clarification. Menticide which is destruction of the mind. Dr. Jawanson Kunjufu wrote a book called Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. That's menticide. Menticide happens where you destroy the mind of men. It's not physical, but it's mental. No-fault divorce is a form of menticide. Dr. Bobby Wright talked about that. I'm going to try to find some information on Dr. Bobby Wright. But then again, we got a even worse problem, infanticide. And so while all three are horrible, which one is impacting society the most? Is it femicide? Is it menticide? Or is it infanticide? And so I definitely don't think it's infanticide. It's probably, femicide. I think it's definitely infanticide. And the way these court systems are now, I don't know if femicide and menticide are side by side, but we know that there are a lot of men that are suffering, white or black, due to unjust laws and unjust things that are impacting whoever. But at the end of the day, sadly, these women are gone. They didn't deserve to lose their lives. And that's why we got to have conversations where men can speak out and talk about their struggles without fear of being ridiculed, and have a coaching conversation once again.
The incident came to an end when law enforcement shot and killed the suspect during that chase. Officials are still working to determine the exact motive, but early findings point to ongoing family conflict and relationship issues leading up to the attack. This case is now being described as one of the deadliest and most heartbreaking incidents in the history of Shreveport, and it has left the entire community in shock.
All right, so once again, this incident that happened in Shreveport, Louisiana, guys. What do y'all think about that? And this is, I guess this is what's, hold tight. Hold tight. And once again, my heart goes out to this, this poor woman, and also those babies, those innocent babies that lost their lives. But guys, that's why we got to have these conversations. We got to have these conversations, man, because a hopeless man is a broken man, and a broken man is dangerous. And you know, some of these men are they're crashing out, but we got to be careful not to get caught up in this propaganda nonsense, guys.
I don't wish this on nobody. A father walked into his children's home in Shreveport and took the lives of 8 children. The mayor of Shreveport called it one of the deadliest tragedies in the city's history. As more details emerge, the story becomes even more shocking. Police have confirmed the suspected gunman was the father of some of the victims. The incident happened early Sunday morning across 3 separate...
What could possess a man to take the life of 7 kids or 8 kids? What could possess a man and then attempt to take out his wife or girlfriend? What could possess a man, guys, to do that in you all's opinion? Right, Cortez Smith, right. And you're right. Cortez Smith said nobody talked about the Indian tech guru. Right. That's why I said, man, it's not a black man issue. It's not a white man's issue. It's a human issue. It's called human condition. And I'm going to show you guys stories where it happened and it was reversed and it wasn't talked about. But this is what happens with propaganda, politics, and many times it's used to demonize and to further cause divide between black men and women, or the genders in different
locations in the Cedar Grove area. 2 women also survived the attack. One of them is believed to have been in a relationship with the suspect. She was shot in the head and is still fighting for her life.
Yeah. They said she was shot in the head. My God.
The victims ranged in age from 1 to 14 years old. After the attack, the suspect fled the scene, carjacked a nearby vehicle, and attempted to escape. Police launched a pursuit that continued into Bossier City. In the end, the suspect was shot and killed during the chase. The mayor of Shreveport reiterated that this was a tragic event, possibly the worst the city has ever experienced.
It goes back to a root cause, and it's called family. Imagine if we had more healthier families. Healthy families produce healthy children. We're not saying that healthy families can eradicate all. We're not saying that healthy families always mean that the kids going to be good. But Frederick Douglass said that it's easier to prepare damaged kids than it is to repair broken men. And I believe that what Frederick Douglass said, that it's easier to repair broken, damaged children than it is to repair broken men. And there are some broken men with unresolved mental health issues, and the world is not listening to what they're saying. And it's causing these conversations to be lost in translation. And listen, the man was an Army vet. Did he snap? Was he dealing with PTSD? They say he had a criminal history as well. I don't know.
Law enforcement agencies, including the governor of Louisiana and the Speaker of the House, have fully joined the investigation.
Thank you, A gunman took the lives of 8 children in Louisiana, and what police said next left the entire nation completely speechless. This is now the deadliest mass shooting in the United States in more than 2 years, and the details coming out of Shreveport, Louisiana are absolutely devastating. The shooting occurred around 6 in the morning on Sunday at 2 separate homes. The victims ranged in age from just 1-year-old to approximately 14 years old. A total of 10 people were shot across both locations. But what makes this story even more chilling is what Shreveport Police Chief Wayne Smith revealed at the press conference. Some of the children were directly related to the suspect. This was not a random attack on strangers. These children knew their attacker. Like and share this video so more people can hear about these innocent lives. The gunman fled the scene after the shootings in a stolen vehicle. Police pursued him, and officers fired at the suspect during the chase. He later died. 8 children, 2 homes, 1 Sunday morning.
This is a video of...
I don't know how to act because I've lost 8 parts.
So this man lost his son plus his nieces and nephews.
Of me, because I loved each and every one of them like they were my own, and I took care of them like they were my own.
This is Troy Brown, the father of one of the children killed in the Shreveport mass shooting by Shamar Elkins.
Now, here's the propaganda, guys. This woman said, it's not a mental health issue. You see how that leads into the propaganda? But I'm going to prove this woman wrong. It's not a mental health issue. Always, that's called the minimization of masculinity. And, you know, it feeds into the false stereotypes about men and violence. This is an epidemic against women and children. But then one could argue, if that's the case, then who's complicit in infanticide? Men are not complicit in infanticide. Men are not taking, the lives of their babies with impunity. Men are not doing that. But when you paint these false narratives and diminish mental health and just abruptly feed into a false narrative and a false stereotype about black men being inherently violent, then now you're talking about your father, you're talking about your grandfather, you're talking about your brothers, and you're talking about your sons. And that's why these narratives are violent, because if men reversed and said the same thing, then they would use that same adage, and it's unfortunate. And I'm going to I'm going to prove to you guys that what I'm saying is the case. Right, this person had but the man literally and medically had a history of mental health issues, and while it may not be the sole reason what he did, it could be well the driving force. But I'm not a doctor nor a police, so I don't know what I know. But I do believe this man has some unresolved mental health issues. If you go back probably to his childhood, his formative years, he looks deranged by looking at it. I'm sure he dealt with some unresolved trauma and violence, and it was never taken care of. And some men cope through maladaptive ways, abandonment, violence, sex, and sometimes, sadly, homicide. and look at this person. I'm arguing from an emotional response. And some get it, but some don't.
Brother-in-law. Elkins fatally shot 8 children, 7 of them his own, early on Sunday morning. Brown says that his 12-year-old daughter and wife were able to escape by jumping off a roof. He added that Elkins had a history of mental health issues, but that he
had a history of mental health issues. But you see how this woman tried to minimize it. Don't justify what he did, but most men are not just going to do something that crazy and that violent unless they had a bunch of unresolved mental health issues. And sadly, many times in mental health reform, a lot of men don't feel comfortable because some men don't feel supported by in the therapy profession, even though I'm a licensed professional. But some men don't feel supported. That's why they don't go to therapy. And many times they feel like their stories are minimized, to say the least.
Still in disbelief about what had happened.
I mean, he loved his kids. We would take him to the parks, out to eat, come outside, play with him. He loved his kids. He loved his wife. I just don't know what happened.
Brown also paid tribute to his 10-year-old son killed in the shooting.
I'm never going to get to throw the football with him again. I'm never going to get to hear him say, "Daddy, can I get this bag of chips?" I'm never going to get to hear my nieces say, "Gunkle, can I get a nana? Gunkle, you going to work? Gunkle, are you okay?" I'm never going to hear that again.
And so we fall into these false narratives, these false stereotypes, and this negative loop continues. Small sample size, but
new details now emerging.
Black men are falsely equivocated as being dangerous and violent. And then, you wonder why they act out. You wonder why they do the things that they do, because nobody hears the story. They just suffer in silence. They don't say anything because every time they say something, it's minimized. This man deserved to have lost his life. But you got to start hearing these men's story. I don't know all the ins and outs of what happened. Some of the men that took these women's lives were they were reckless men. Some of them were dealing with mental health issues. Some of them were dealing with PTSD. Don't justify it, but it helps understand it.
Following a devastating shooting, a former National Guardsman accused of shooting and killing 8 children. 7 of them were his own. Some family members jumping from the roof to escape. Here's Steve Osunsami.
This is ring camera video.
And you see how this is falling into, and they ask me why I'm single. They take a small sample size and they falsely equivocate all men as being dangerous. But however, when you have feel-good stories or men putting their lives on the line and dying for women and children, nobody talks about that because that does not feed the negative narrative and stereotypes about men, white or black, in general.
Of police in suburban Shreveport, Louisiana, rushing to the scene. And the tragedy here is putting new focus tonight on domestic abuse.
The female saying there's 9 subjects that live inside the residence, saying he may have shot them all.
Family members say that the wife, who is still fighting for her life this evening and whose children are dead, had told her husband she wanted a divorce and was scheduled.
And listen, some men will snap when a woman asks for a divorce. And that's unfortunate. And that's why men need fathers. That's why men need strong men in their lives to say, if a woman want to leave you, let her go. But see, we got a generation of men raised in single parent homes. They devalue themselves because they have low self-esteem. Many times, they have simp-like behaviors, and they don't think they can get any better than the woman that they're dealing with. So instead of just walking away and leaving, they take the woman's life. There are billions of women on this planet. There's no need to take a woman's life. Let her go. Let her go on with her life. You'll be fine. You'll find your voice again. You'll find yourself. But you have allowed that woman to get into your inner sanctum as a man, and it's caused you to think irrationally to the point that you fall in love and you take somebody's life. If she want to leave, let her leave. Don't take the woman's life. Let her go on with her life. It's billions of women on this planet. You don't need to take a woman's life. Let that woman go on with her life and move on with herself. But see, when you don't have strong fathers in these homes, when you don't have fathers telling these young boys that don't put a woman above yourself as a man, then it becomes a problem. Tim, thank you, man, for telling me to watch the language. Some of y'all, let me tell you something. I don't mind you having a conversation, but watch the language. Don't mind you guys having a conversation. Y'all can disagree with me. That's fine. You can disagree with others. But watch the language. You won't be warned more than once. If you use adverse language, I'm going to warn you one time. I'll put you in timeout. After that, you're going to be blocked. Shout out to John Smith. Hey, brother KC. Shout out to brother John Smith for that $10 super chat. Thank you, brother John Smith. Thank you, sir, for being so kind. I appreciate that.
To appear in court with him today. Police say that 31-year-old Shamar Elkins, seen here in photos posted on social media, responded Sunday with gunfire from an assault-style weapon, killing 7 of his own children and 1 of their cousins, 3 boys, 5 girls, 3 to 11 years old. A woman and a child who made it out alive had to jump off the roof of the home.
8 innocent children losing their lives as a result of domestic violence.
The school system says that one of those children, a 6-year-old, had just passed a childhood literacy test.
Just last week, I had the opportunity to celebrate him because he had met his benchmark goals.
Authorities say the father died in a shootout with police after gunning down his own family at 2 different homes, where he also wounded his wife and another woman. Parents who know the family say that America should focus on the children and not their father.
I'm a mama myself, and I'm a grandmother as well. And it just makes you take your children and hug them and hold them and tell them how much you love them. Because you just don't know.
The father was former military in the Louisiana National Guard, but police are still trying to figure out how he was able to get a hold of a gun. He has a felony firearms conviction from several years ago that should have prevented this, and his family says that he was getting treated for mental health issues at his local VA. Funeral arrangements for his children are still being put together tonight. David,
we're just thinking about
and that's what I said. I was right. You know, this man probably was dealing with PTSD. He probably was a vet. He probably saw some dark stuff, had a lot of unresolved mental health issues. But see, they don't look at the nuance to why the person did what they did. It's easier to demonize all black men as dangerous and violent, or men in general, than to look at black men as being having unresolved mental health issues. It's easy to do that because negativity sells.
An individual claimed the lives of 8 children, and most were related to him. The devastating tragedy happened Sunday around 6 in the morning in Shreveport. The suspect targeted 2 separate homes, with victims ranging from just 1-year-old to 13 years old. 10 people were injured, 8 of them were children, and tragically, all 8 passed away. Here is what makes this even more disturbing. Police say most of the children who lost their lives were close relatives of the attacker. This was not a random incident involving strangers. These kids knew the individual. He was family. The suspect fled in a stolen vehicle, leading authorities on a chase. During the pursuit, authorities intervened. The individual was struck and later passed away. Chief Wayne Smith broke the news at a press conference, and his words left the nation speechless. How does a man turn a weapon on his own family? On babies. On a Sunday morning, this stands as one of the most severe tragedies in the country in more than 2 years. 8 children, 2 homes, 1 morning that will haunt Shreveport forever. Rest in peace to those innocent little ones. Their names have not been released yet, but their loss will never be forgotten.
All right, so I want to talk about the men that are heroes. We talk about the men that are dangerous, but let's talk about the black men that are heroes. There were a few that are heroes that have put their lives on the line for the cause of women and children. But we don't talk about that because having positive images of black men does not feed into the false narrative that all black men are dangerous. So let's look at some of the positive men that have put their lives on the line for black women and children. All right, let's look at
We have a tragic story here today. Dad dies after almost cutting on clean off while trying to save family in Texas flooding. I am not going to make it, he says. Boom.
So this was a man, Julian Ron, 27, was with his fiance, Christina Wilson. He was a white man. They had 2 children, ages 6 and 13, and his mother, when catastrophic flooding from the Guadalupe River tore through their trailer home in Ingram around 4 o'clock. What this man did, he put his life on the line, and he sacrificed, consistent with what men have historically done. From the great Titanic, men sacrificed their lives for women and children. But this false narrative that men are dangerous, especially black men, is causing the divide between the genders. It does not minimize what these men did. That's sad and unfortunate. But to keep perpetuating these negative stereotypes is continue to cause harm and denigration to innocent men that really have kind hearts, white or black.
Julian Ryan, 27, was with his fiancée, Christine Wilson, their 2 children, aged 6 and 13, and his mother when catastrophe flooded.
Hold tight.
I have an update about Bill Venus, and unfortunately, his son did find him.
Now, this man's name was Bill Venus. Bill Venus was a black Army veteran that put his life on the line, lost his life trying to defend women and children. He did get some acclaim and whatnot, but we are so soon to forget about men like this that put their lives on the line for women and children. We forget about men like this, but let's finish listening.
But he was deceased. His son, Will Venus Jr., who went to Burnett looking for him, made an updated Facebook post and said that his father was found and he was face down in the water. In just a second, I'm going to let you listen to what he said happened and how he found his father. Before I play this video, I am going to say trigger warning because it's going to break your heart.
I didn't make it, bro. He died by himself. He got hit in the head by a piece of debris while he was in a tree. He fucking survived, bro. He tried. He tried. His car got flipped off the bridge. They pulled it out. It was upside down. They got his bag. I got it. It's in his van. I had his ID card in it. He got swept. How far is this? This is what, 2-3 miles away. He somehow found a ladder, bro, and a rope. He climbed up into a tree, and he was in that tree, and the water kept right.
This man is consistent with what men have done historically. I got another few names I'm going to talk about as well. When it's come down to women and children, men have historically given their lives, put their lives on the line to protect women and children. But see, we live in a world now where some, and shout out to the good women, let me take the time to thank good women that respect male leadership and respect their husbands. And like I said, the women that lost their lives, my heart goes out to them. Violence is never the answer. But we got a generation of women that want to be independent outside of their male leadership and then claim protection at the same time. And it doesn't work that way. You can't ask men to serve you while being out of the order and the structure of the man you say you love and respect. But many times men just put their lives on the line just because men tend to be very altruistic.
The tree wasn't tall enough, and he got hit. He got fucking sniped in the head by a piece of debris, and then he fell into the water.
He did thank everyone for their support and everything that they did, because without the help, he might not have ever found his dad. Mr. Venus did serve 33 years in the United States Army, and he survived 5 deployments. Will went live on his Facebook page and said that he wanted to create a digital memorial for his father. He wants anyone that knew Bill or was impacted by Bill to send him a video. You can find Will on both Facebook and TikTok. My heart goes out to Will and his family and everyone else that lost someone that they loved during these tragic floods. Please join me in sending Will your condolences, and thank you, Mr. Venus, for your service. Like and share this video, and I will see y'all in the next one.
That's one. Now let me show you guys some more stories, because that's only one. That's only one story and one example. Let me show you guys more examples, because the media loves propaganda. They love to believe that black men are dangerous. I'm not saying that they're not, that black women don't die at the hands of black men, but it's still a small sample size. And when it comes down to there's homicide and then there's domestic violence, and who starts it. According to some research, there's a body of research to say domestic violence is started by women, and some men underreported due to shame. Some walk away, and some it lead to homicide. But let's look at this man, Brandon Solomon, the man who risked his life to protect 13 people and to protect his community. You won't hear about stories like this. Hold tight. This man, Brandon Solomon, the man who risked his life to save 13 people and protect his community. But those same women that falsely painted and assumed that all men are dangerous, that men are dangerous, that men need to be, painted as boogeymen. They don't look at the stories like this young man that put his life on the line trying to protect 13 people. Like somebody said, always a great way to go against the negative stereotypes, because guess what? Negative stereotypes going to always drive the conversation. But you don't hear stories about Brandon Solomon. All right, here's another example. Hold tight.
Building while out for a walk. Without hesitation, he rushed inside and knocked on every door.
This is what men have historically done when it came down to saving women and children. This man didn't think twice about risking his life to get in a house on fire to warn the occupants. The house was destroyed, but everyone's life was saved thanks to his selfless act. But we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about bidirectionality when it comes down to domestic violence. There many women, many times, are the perpetrators of bidirectionality. There have been many stories and countless stories of women punching and hitting men, but they just eat it. But then when that man finally get tired of it and snap, then they say he should walk away instead of saying that woman should not disrespect men and hurt them. Because when it comes down to men's rights, men are expected to eat it and be disrespected.
To warn the residents. In the end, all residents were safely evacuated, and there were no injuries or fatalities. Deno, 35, was out for a walk when he suddenly saw thick smoke billowing from an apartment building. He quickly ran over and found that the fire had already begun to spread, yet no one inside seemed to be aware of the danger. Without hesitation, he rushed into the building and began knocking on doors one by one, starting from the first floor and shouting. Some residents were still asleep and only realized the urgency of the situation after being startled awake by the frantic knocking. While guiding residents downstairs, Deno checked each room to ensure
that's
no
3
one was
men
left behind. Within minutes, all residents had been evacuated to safety. By the time firefighters arrived, the fire had already engulfed most of the building's structure, but thanks to Deno's timely warning, there were no casualties. Afterward, one of the rescued residents said tearfully, "If it weren't for him, I might not have made it out." Deno himself responded modestly, "I just did what I had to do." Currently, the cause of the fire is still under investigation. Although the property damage was severe, all lives were spared.
But where are those stories? You see how propaganda media and propaganda politics continue to perpetuate false stereotypes? Do you see that? And you're right, Tim, men have to speak up. Everyone looking at the man, but not the several women who had kids by. We can say the same excuse for women when they excuse for women. We can say the same for women when they use excuses for women. It's women's responsibility to take care of their mental health. And you're right, Tim. The system is destroying families. I agree. Yeah, I saw that. A black lady that shot a clerk for no reason on camera went live and said she was going to go on the spree. The media is covering up the story. Yes, I know what you're talking about. I'm gonna play that in a minute. You're right, Tim. They always are dismissed or minimized.
Spotted a
It's not fair to the kids, and it's I would die for you. Black dad saves his baby. Devin L. Brimage, 36, a father of 11 children, was shot and killed in Plymouth, North Carolina, April 2nd.
Now, this happened in North Carolina. This is not too far from where I used to live. A black dad sacrificed his life for his infant child. Devon Brimage, 36, a father of 11, was shot and deleted in Plymouth, North Carolina on April while holding his 8-month-old baby. He used his own body as a shield to protect the infant from gunfire. But why wasn't that story broadcasted? Why wasn't this man celebrated? Because celebrating positive stories don't make the news. Only salaciousness and trauma narratives feed the algorithm.
On his 8-month-old baby, he used his own body as a shield to protect the infant from gunfire. Follow for more Instagram Fuel for the Body, TikTok Gabriel Marcin. A parent to do anything to protect their child. Shout out to all the real parents out there. You are appreciated. I would die for you. Black dad saves his baby. Devin L. Brimage, 36, a father of 11 children, was shot and killed in Plymouth, North Carolina, April 2nd, while holding his 8-month-old baby. He used his own body as a shield to protect the infant from gunfire. Follow for more Instagram Fuel for the Body, TikTok Gabriel Marcin. A parent to do anything to protect their child. Shout out to all the real parents out there. You are appreciated. I would die for you. Black dad saves his baby. Devin L. Brimage, 36, a father of 11 children, was shot and killed in Plymouth, North Carolina, April 2nd, while holding his 8-month-old baby. He used his own body.
On July 28, 2018, a boat capsized in Nigeria's River State. Inside.
Now here's another example of a man that was a hero. But this is, I think this was in Nigeria. Hold tight.
25 terrified passengers screaming, sinking, scattered. Among them was Joseph Blackson, a contractor, a father, a man just trying to get home with his sister. But Joseph was a strong swimmer. The others weren't, so he dove back into the river. Once, twice, a third time, 10 times. Each time, he dragged someone out choking, gasping, clinging to life. He saved 13 people. 13, but the river had one more fight left. On his 14th dive, Joseph Blackson didn't come back up. He died doing...
Now think about Joseph Blackson risking his life while having a wife and children, which I don't know if I would have went back 13 times. And he risked his life to save strangers. But you won't hear those stories. I gave you guys at least 5 examples of men heroically putting their lives on the lives for women and children. But once again, this false narrative about black men being dangerous and violent is what the media wants you to think and expect because it keeps us divided. That's why I call it paranoid persecution. Paranoid persecution and the minimization of masculinity.
What most men wouldn't even try. And he died a hero. He left behind a wife, 2 children, and a nation in mourning. But he also left a legacy that when the flood rises and others run, there are still some who swim toward the sinking. This is Joseph Blackson, and this is what real heroism looks like. On July 28, 2018, a boat capsized in Nigeria's River State. Inside, 20...
I know this video won't get a lot of views, but I do want to bring awareness. Not all heroes wear capes.
16-year-old put his life on the line. I'm giving you guys story after story after story and examples.
Some wear sneakers and make selfless choices. And let me tell you about 16-year-old Bryce Brooks. Bryce was a teen from Atlanta who went on a spring break trip to Florida. When he saw 4 kids he didn't even know caught in a deadly ripped current, he didn't hesitate. Bryce jumped in to save them. And in that moment, he became more than just a bystander. He became a hero. But the current was too strong. Bryce was pulled under, and tragically, he didn't make it back. A family friend, Charles, Uncle Chuck Johnson, also gave his life trying to save Bryce. They didn't die for attention. They died showing us what real courage looked like, risking everything for a stranger. Today, Bryce's name lives on through the Bryce Brooks Foundation, which gives free swimming lessons and scholarships to future lifeguards. His story reminds us greatness isn't about fame or money. It's about what you give to others, even strangers. Rest in peace, Bryce Brooks. You are a true hero. I know this video won't get a lot of views, but I do want to bring awareness.
That's why my jacket caught on fire when I tried.
Did you hear about the father in Michigan who took a quick ride to the store, and when he came home, his house was on fire and both his daughters were trapped inside?
Did anybody hear about this man? This is an old story. The man that protected his babies ran in to save his babies and got burnt. Got burnt in the process.
Stop! We from Gaza. Please don't
A black man lost his life at Walmart for protecting a woman that was being beat by a man.
Now hear this. Another man lost his life protecting another woman. And that's why I tell men, I'm not putting my life on the line for strangers unless my wife and my children. I can't do that. I can't afford to protect somebody, a stranger that I don't know. I'll call the cops, but I'm not going to take no bullet for a stranger. I can't do that.
Let me explain. God rest this man's soul. I salute this man for trying to protect a complete stranger because I know his heart was in the right place. But I have a serious question for black women. How did this alleged scammer, the brick lady, raise $20,000 more than a black man that gave his life protecting you? You have some explaining to do because you made a huge fucking deal about not being protected. But when a black man loses his life protecting you, you don't even support him. He left behind a wife and a newborn baby. And now his family have to put up a GoFundMe because they provider and they protector lost his life protecting women that won't even support him when a black man lost his life at Walmart for protecting a woman that was being.
Robert Small was a black American politician and businessman who posed a triple threat.
That's what it is.
He kidnapped and ended.
Not guilty of.
The man who robbed a bank to save his daughter's life was sentenced to 25 years in prison. In August, Brian Randolph walked into a Vibe credit union in South Lyon, Michigan, and handed the clerk a note demanding money. The note showed that he had a shotgun hidden in his clothes and demanded that he hand it over all the credit union's money. The clerk complied, and an emergency call was made to the police. The store was not damaged. Police immediately called in surveillance, identified Brian Randolph as a suspect, and arrested him. At the time of the arrest, Brian's family cried and claimed that their 1-year-old daughter had retinoblastoma and that her insurance had been abruptly dropped. So Brian robbed a credit union to pay for her medical bills. In court, Randolph said,
All I think about is my daughter. I never harm no one. I'm not a bad person at all.
The judge said, but harshly rebutted Randolph.
You send me all these letters and you tell me what a wonderful guy you're not. You're not, you're a bank robber.
What do you think about Randolph being sentenced?
All right. I'm gonna stop it. So I would love to hear some of you guys' feedback about all of this stuff that's happened. Do you guys believe that these false stereotypes continue to perpetuate negative images of men? And even though, once again, the women that lost their lives was definitely wrong, but what do you guys feel about that? I would love to briefly hear one or two people come up. I'd love to hear a couple of guys come up. I would love to hear some of the guys give me their input. So I'm going to drop the link, guys, for a few minutes, under 10 minutes. And if you would like, please come through. And shout out to Patricia Robinson. Thank you, ma'am. Black women love our black men. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, dear. I appreciate that, Patricia. Thank you for those kind words. I dropped the link, guys. It's going to be short. I would love to hear from a few people about what goes wrong about black men in crisis, because many times when black men in crisis, their stories, their pain, their fears, their hopes, it's minimized. And I would love to hear some feedback from men or women about their input to what happened and what needs to be done, and if black male mental health is often minimized. I would love to hear from some of the women regarding that. So the link has been dropped, guys. In the meantime, guys, if you're in need of a non-diagnostic consultation, come see me at kosherclinician@gmail.com. Come see me at kosherclinician@gmail.com for non-diagnostic consultation. Are you a victim of brokenness and despair? A broken man is a hopeless man. And a hopeless man is a very dangerous man. Many times, many of you young men that are listening come from homes that are very toxic and very dysfunctional. And because of that, many of you have deferred your power in many ways to the point it's led over into your social life and many times led over into your relationships. If you guys are dealing with mental health pathologies, conscious and unconscious, come see me at kosherclinician@gmail.com. That's kosherclinician@gmail.com. It's important that you deal with your mental health in order to be a better person for yourself, your loved ones, and also your community. But because mental health is often stigmatized, many of you often suffer in silence. Don't be a victim in silence. And see me once again at kosherclinician@gmail.com. And I need you guys to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. There are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become an optimized male. And male mental health is one of those elements that's paramount to the functioning of a man. Be well. All right, guys, the link has been dropped. I would love to hear from a man or woman about male mental health and what happens when a crisis goes wrong. Do you guys feel like it's part of propaganda to continue to demonize men? But also, guys, here's what some men talk about, that while there are some, we're not saying all. I think the woman's name was Janae. I can't believe her name. And there are some divested women that want to be with white men, and so they castigate black men. But while they're castigating black men, some of them get with on white men, and those white men sometimes take their life. But what some are saying that there's no story about that. So tell me what you guys think about that. The link has been dropped. $600 million for us, so we black men should be happy with 30. So the link has been dropped, guys. If y'all want to come through and have a brief conversation about this topic, I would love to hear from you guys. If not, I'm going to end the stream in a minute. But once again, guys, we know that violence is never the answer, and these women lost their lives at an untimely event, and it's unfortunate and it's sad. And we know that domestic violence is real. It's an issue that happens a lot, but there have been stories. Actually, hold tight. There have been stories about hold tight. Lesbian relationships. So hold tight. Let me find this. Now, we try to make it seem as if black men are by default violent, but how about these stud relationships, these alphabet relationships? Stud take her life on Easter. It's gotten so bad, guys, that some of these studs are thinking about going back to being heterosexuals, guys. Because we have these false narratives where we assume that men are inherently violent and dangerous. But one could argue that these studs and these alphabet relationships with women is actually worse.
Yeah, go to sleep, because if I go to sleep, this is going to be too real.
25-year-old Georgia teacher Kaylin Jackson was shot and killed after what was supposed to be a night of...
So where's the outrage in homicidal situations where studs are taking out women? You won't see nobody talk about that because that doesn't feed into the false narrative and the false stereotypes about black men in general. We know that there are violent black men. We understand that. We understand that. We know there are some men that will hurt women. That's why some of you women that are rebellious, Some of you women that are hard-headed, some of you women that don't honor and respect your fathers, some of you women that do what you want to do, you get in the hands of a wolf, and many of these men that are wolves know that they are wolves, and they manipulate, because a true man will never turn another man's daughter against the father. A true man of God or a true man would tell the daughter to respect your father, even if you disagree with him. I can't partake of that because that's out of order. So therefore, I love you. And I do love you, but I don't love you to the point that I'm going to go outside of order and disrespect the order that God has told me to do. True men of God don't go against God's order in the name of God. But you got a generation of women now that don't respect their fathers. They don't respect order. They don't respect structure. And shout out to Dr. Ron Neal talking about how societies have become dismantled because healthy structures that men set in place to protect women and children. You got a generation of women now that don't respect and honor male leadership, and they cry when men are not around to protect them. But how can a man protect a woman that does not respect him and honor him or respect his leadership? Male protection is not free. Can you imagine going to a place and say, serve me, but you don't give that person anything in return? Male protection is not free. No different than will I expect a woman to nurture kids of the community without some kind of incentive. Sometimes it's not always about an incentive, but I don't expect a man to put his life on the line for strangers.
Family celebration. On April 19th, 2025, Kaylin hosted a family Easter gathering at her home in DeKalb County. It was the first time in more than a decade her family had all been together under one roof. She spent the evening laughing, celebrating, surrounded by the people she loved. But just hours later, she was dead. Around 10 p.m., after the party ended, Kaylin and her girlfriend, 24-year-old Janai Colbert, got into an argument inside Kaylin's bedroom. A roommate heard a loud bang. Moments later, Kaylin stumbled out, bleeding, and said the words no one ever wants to hear. She shot me. DeKalb County police rushed to the home and found Kaylin with a gunshot wound to the chest. She was rushed into emergency surgery at Grady Memorial Hospital, but doctors couldn't save her. She died that night. Police immediately arrested her girlfriend, Janai Colbert, who was still at the scene. She's now charged with malice murder, meaning investigators believe it was premeditated or fueled by hatred, not just an accident in the heat of the moment. But here's where it gets even worse. This wasn't the first sign of trouble. Court documents show that just a year earlier in 2024, police had been called to the couple's home after a violent domestic incident. Janai had allegedly attacked Kaylin during a heated argument, and although no major injuries were reported that time, it should have been a warning. Neighbors later told police they had heard frequent screaming matches from the house over the past year. Friends of Kaylin said she often covered for Janai, brushing off bruises or avoiding questions about arguments. It's the classic cycle of domestic violence, escalation, apology, and silence until it turns deadly.
I can't go to sleep.
Yeah. Still
I can
relationships.
tell right away when dating a girl if they are going to be an abuser or if they did abuse.
But once again, you would think that men are just by default the negative ones, the violent ones. I'm not saying that the violence doesn't happen. I'm not saying that. But these domestic violence situations with studs is problematic. I might even do a show on that. I'm going to play this clip and then I'm going to end the stream.
Their last partner, and here are some of the signs of that. The biggest sign to me is the subtle threat that's not actually acted upon, but it is announced. For example, I was in a pretty heated argument with a girl, which I don't even to this day understand what that was about. But I rolled my eyes at something she said because it was just so silly and out of nowhere. And she goes, "Where I'm from, you get smacked for doing that." And I literally looked at her and I said, "That's not normal." The other sign is when that person gets excited in the moments that you're angry, even if you're not angry at them and you're just venting about a situation and they find that as a turn on. No. I literally said to this girl once, "I feel like you want me to be someone I'm not. I feel like you are excited at the idea of confrontation and I'm not." Meaning I felt like she was starting fights purposely because that adrenaline of being in confrontation turned her on. Whereas I have bipolar disorder. So I at all times try to make sure my emotional levels are mitigated and I don't put too much stress on myself so I don't trigger an episode. And I explain that to almost everyone I talk to in the beginning of dating. I go, I am not the girl who is going to yell or push back or do any of that. I would just leave, number one, because I am also a Libra. So I don't have to deal with that. I'm just going to go. but it felt like she wanted me to be this confrontational person that yells and screams, and that she wanted us to fight. And I was like, no, ma'am, I don't do that. I'm too pretty for that. Those are just a couple examples that I have. If you have any other examples, let me know. But to this day, I have not been in any sort of domestic violence relationship, nor have I ever put my hands on someone. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that to say that that is how it should be. No one should be putting your hands on you, and you should not be putting your hands on anyone. So if you even get the tiny bit of inkling that this person could be violent, you got to get out of there. As soon as we had that argument, as soon as she made that comment about smacking me in the face, oh baby, packed my shit up, gone, blocked, don't ever talk to me again. Because that is where I draw the line. If I have to walk around eggshells because I feel like what I'm going to say or do is going to make you hit me, because that you think that shit is normal because we're both girls, you don't got to worry about me. You don't got to worry. There's someone out there who will give you that, but it ain't going to be me. So just know that is not normal. It does not have to be tolerated, and you need to get out if that is your situation.
All right, we're going to stop it here, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We go. Cortez said every Keisha I worked with was in a valid. Every stud Keisha I worked with was in a valid relationship at some point, no doubt. But listen, guys, we're gonna end this stream, guys. Thank y'all we had a pretty big crowd at one point. Those that tapped in. Shout out to the #1 sponsors, John Smith and my man Ray Johnson. And shout out to my brother Hashim Shabazz. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it for the fire, brother Hashim. Thank you, sir. And guys, we're gonna end this stream. Share the stream. Share with like-minded people. If I get 5 folks, guys, to share the stream, man, I really appreciate it. Share with 5 like-minded people, guys, and we're going to end it here. Thank you guys for tuning in. And this has been another moment of the Kosher Clinician, guys. And we're going to be ending this stream, guys. So once again, thank you to everybody that tuned in. And we're going to end it right now. It's been another good show, guys. 22 minutes after the hour, 9 o'clock, guys. We're going to end this stream on tonight. Thank you to the people that tuned in. This has been another classic by the Kosher Clinician, guys. Domestic violence is never the answer, but we need to start having greater conversations around male mental health. Bringing it to you live once again from the greatest state in the Union, the Tar Heel State, where the topography is serene, pristine, and verdant green, where every day is Father's Day, and where manhood is part of hills and valleys, victories and failures, and whereas men, we don't agree on all things or ideologies, but tonight we come together as allies of a common cause, only to dissipate once the crisis is over. Now listen, I'm about to drop some fire for your mind, but before I drop that fire, let's explore why we are doing the Manhood Chronicles.